Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. As we told you yesterday about this unbelievable story of racism out of a General Motors plant in Toledo, Ohio. Talk about just unbelievable when you look at the details in this particular case. Now, before the suits were filed, there were complaints that were filed with the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. And we're going to talk to the head of the Civil Rights Commission in just a moment to find out what they found out about. But this is what the General Motors appealed their decision, and this is what the commission said in rejecting their appeal. GM showed indifference to the situation by implying that employees made too big a deal out of the nooses, as well as engaging in racial comments themselves. Nooses, swastikas, white-only signs, ethnic slurs, racial jokes, offensive or derogatory comments, racist poems are repetitive in respondents' workplace. The totality of circumstances was ignored, and respondent treated the situation like a single-issue harassment case, not a hostile work environment. Joining us right now from Columbus, Ohio, is Darlene Sweeney-Newbern. She is the Director of Regional Operations at the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. Of course, they investigated the complaints at GM. Darlene, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. It is stunning to read the indifference. It's stunning, Darlene, to read the absolute indifference of General Motors to this level of racism at that plant.
Yes. You have the documents in front of you. The Ohio Civil Rights Commission, which is a law enforcement agency, we did receive a number of complaints about a racially hostile environment. And from that, we began an investigation. How this actually works is that when someone files a charge with the Civil Rights Commission, the first thing we try to do in most instances is to create what we call a win-win situation, depending on how really bad this is. We took a look at these cases and said, no, there's a bigger public issue here, and we must go and dig into these allegations to see where this leads. And as you well know, what you have read is true. These are the types of things that we did find that was happening at GM. There were racial slurs where you had not only employees, but you had team leaders referring to the African-American employees with the use of the N-word. And you had them, as you read, probably was most shocking to a lot of people is the use of the word Dan. Roland, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
That is, first of all, when you hear this, and when you think that this is a major global multinational corporation, not only that, a corporation that has a very extensive diversity effort reaching Black consumers, when you think about General Motors, but this is, again, trying to educate people to understand that this is what happens, that this is not General Motors in Detroit. That's the parent company. This is the plant in Ohio, and that speaks to the kind of workers there in Ohio.
Yes, this did occur in Toledo, Ohio, and it occurred over the commission investigation lasts just about a year. And during our investigation, there were incidents that were occurring while we were investigating. What really prompted the investigation not only was the filing of the charge, but the allegations that there were news in addition to racial slurs being made. Now, this was in 2017, and we were saying, what? Not that this was really as surprising as I made it seem, because the Civil Rights Commission, this is what we do every day. We investigate these type of allegations and more. But in this particular instances, you not only had one noose, but during the time we were investigating, 2 more nooses were hung.
Wow.
In addition, we started having the whites-only restroom. So when an African-American would go to the restroom, they had to look up at the wall as they entered and see whites only. When you sat in a stall, you may then see the Confederate flag or swastika written inside of the stall. You may walk down through the plant in a particular area, and you may see other racial slurs that was going on. In addition, you had the commission found you had the managers or the supervisors referring to African Americans as boys. Again, we use the N-word was used quite often in that plant. It was all kinds of stuff written. What was interesting is that they had the Black president of the union, who was Ray Wood, who, as you know, filed a charge as well, and I believe was on your show already. He did attempt to try to address this, but he was hitting a brick wall, and there was retaliation the commission filed because he was trying to correct this extremely hostile environment. There was a lot of anxiety going on. GM's response, more or less, to the commission is not that this wasn't occurring, but their response was, hey, every time an incident happened, we took action. Understand that the law says that you must take prompt remedial action. And they said, that's what we did. What that means is if you took prompt remedial action, it would have stopped. And that didn't happen. It continued and continued.
What, Darlene,
right.
Darlene, this is Darlene, this is Ray Baker here in Washington. One of the questions that I'm curious about reading this, we saw even attacks against white women who were socializing with black men, and we saw that the white employees were refusing to listen to their black superiors. What did that mean for black folks who were trying to climb up the career ladder? When the white people enlist to them, did we find that they were stifled? Were they leaving GM altogether and then not progressing in their career? What became of that?
Well, thank you for asking that question. Although the commission did find a racially hostile environment, we did find that there would have been some denial of promotions here. All of that played into this. Please understand why the most glaring has to do with the racial slurs and the nooses. It is true. You had one individual, Tammy Van Riper. She did join in and say, hey, this is wrong. She was part of the union. As a result of that, there was all kind of really racist and sexist poems that was spread, that was actually hung throughout the plant, talking about her and Ray Woods. She had, if I recall, she had applied for a particular position and she could not get that position. So this stuff is not mutually exclusive. So yes, it is correct that you will have individuals, black and females, in some instances, not being able to progress. Well, first of all, they were leery about progressing. They did not want to deal with the hostility, the disrespect. Just think of the anxiety that one feels. What does it mean when you have a noose hanging in your workplace? I believe that sends a clear and convincing message. But believe it or not, that alone is not what even the courts would say is enough. One or two incidents of a noose hanging, in most cases, is one or two noose hangings by itself won't just do it. But however, the commission found that it wasn't just the noose hangings, it was all the other incidents of racism that went along with it.
All right. I certainly want to appreciate you, Darlene, for joining us on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Great job exposing exactly what took place at the GM plant in Ohio. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you.
I want to quickly go to Eugene and go to our panel here. Eugene, first I'll start with you. When you listen to this administration roll back civil rights protections, now all these people say, oh, these things are so behind us. this right here says it's not. And it took place in the heartland, where everybody keeps saying that's where we should be so focused and more be like the heartland of America.
It's a joke. I mean, these folk are Trump voters. I mean, these are the folk that split their ballot for Sherrod Brown and and Donald Trump and the new Republican governor in Ohio. But what it shows is that these issues aren't behind us. And it hurts and affects people of color and black people in particular in many different ways. It affects the morale. It affects brings up it's a throwback to the past experiences, but more importantly, the racism that these workers were experiencing affected their careers and economic interests. When you're going to work and you have to deal with nooses, it's not just dealing with nooses, it's not just dealing with swastikas, it's not just dealing with Confederate flags, it's dealing with being looked over for promotions because the people that are allowing those things to happen are your supervisors.
And Joe, not only economic, this impacts the health of black folks. We know the impact of racism on the health of African Americans, and people act as if, this is no big deal. No, this is our reality.
Yeah, I mean, all medical science has shown that. But, I do want to bring something up, and I've been chopping at the bit on this. Let me tell you something. The president of the union, do not leave the United Auto Workers out of this. They knew that this was going on. These are union members. That is a union town. And I'm not anti-union. My father worked for the Buick plant, was a UAW member all his life. I lived in Detroit. But I am saying to you, the president of that union at that plant has been at that plant for 34 years. So let me tell this panel something. If you don't think for 34 years that he knew all of this was going on, I guarantee you that that president, and by the way, you should see his comments where he sort of, for lack of an unsophisticated word, he poo-pooed this. Oh, there's something there. There's something that's not there. But if he's been at that plant for 34 years, I guarantee you he knows who did it. Yep. He's part of the problem. And the damn UAW International in Detroit ought to be in there right now dealing with those union members. So while they're looking at General Motors, I am saying to you that the union is culpable in this also. These are all union members.
Great point, Joe Madison. We surely appreciate it.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.